Sometimes business owner expands because they're ready, but more often they expand because they're bored. They've been running the same playbook for years. Their revenue is stable. The business feels very predictable. So the next thought becomes, let's open another location. Let's add another product. Let's grow. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Expansion doesn't fix problems. Expansion magnifies them. Welcome back to the Heartbeat of Money. I'm Jon P. Moffitt, where we help business owners build clarity, alignment, and capital readiness so they have options and not pressure. Over the last several episodes, we've slowed down intentionally. We looked at your financial clarity, we looked at your profitability, we looked at your tax planning, and we looked at your organizational structure. And now we're arriving at the question that almost every entrepreneur eventually asks themselves. Is this business actually ready to grow? Because growth without systems creates chaos. Growth without margins creates stress. And growth without structure creates fragility. And heading into 2026 with rising labor costs, tightening lending environments, and increased compliance regulations, the economic uncertainty, growth without readiness can be very dangerous. Now, here's the interesting part about all of it. Most business owners don't actually know if their business is ready. They kind of feel it. They actually hope it. But guess what? They haven't evaluated it. And in this, where AI becomes incredibly helpful, it's not as necessarily your decision maker, but as a thinking partner. So once again, inside the same AI project where we've been building throughout this series, we're going to run another test. So don't open a new chat. Don't start over. Go right back into that same old chat, because the power of this exercise comes from the context you've already given the system. So we've layered in your financial insight. We've layered in your operational structure. We layered in your team clarity. Now we ask this question, and this will all be in the description so you guys can copy and paste this. Here's the prompt. Based on financial operations and organizational information I've shared so far, assess whether this business appears structurally ready for expansion. Identify strengths that support growth and weaknesses that expansion would magnify. Read this response very carefully, because this is where reality usually starts to show up. If profitability is inconsistent, growth magnifies losses. If team structure is unclear, growth magnifies confusion. If decision-making is centralized, growth magnifies bottlenecks. Expansion is not just a strategy, it's an amplifier. Now, let's go one step deeper. This is your second prompt. Identify 3 biggest operational pressures that would likely appear revenue increase by 30 to 50% within the next 18 months. This is where most owners start seeing something really interesting. The business might be capable of selling more, but the system behind it may not be capable of supporting more. Growth pressure shows up in customer service, operations, hiring, cash flow, inventory, and compliance. And if those areas aren't ready, growth doesn't create freedom. It creates a lot of friction. Now, the third prompt. Capital readiness signals. Evaluate whether this business appears capital ready based on financial clarity, operational structure, leadership alignment, and scalability indicators. Identify areas that would concern a lender or investor. And this is where the conversation starts to change a little bit, because lenders, investors, and buyers, they don't evaluate revenue. They evaluate readiness. They ask these questions. Is the business profitable? Are the systems stable? Is the leadership distributed? And is the organizational scalable? Most importantly, is the financial information reliable? If those answers to those questions are unclear, guess what? Capital becomes expensive or just unavailable. But when those answers are clear, something powerful happens. You gain options. Options to expand, options to refinance, options to raise capital, options to sell. But most importantly, options to breathe. And that is what this entire series has been built towards. First, clarity. Second, capital readiness. In the final episode of this series, we're going to talk about what capital readiness actually looks like in most modern business environments, and how entrepreneurs can evaluate their own readiness before they've ever walked into a bank, talked to an investor, or even tried to scale their company. Everything we've done so far has been preparation. In this next episode, we're going to bring it all together. Everything we talked about today ties to capital readiness, having the clarity and the structure to grow, restructure, or exit on your own terms and not under pressure. I'm your host, Jon P. Moffitt. Thank you for tuning in to the Heartbeat of Money, where we focus on clarity and capital readiness, and I'll see you in the next episode.